as fuck, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. I'm Erica.
I'm Ellie.
And we're back to our usual setup.
Back to the living room with our wall and our couch and our table.
Feels good to be
our
home.
Space. It feels so good.
Although we have recorded all the other episodes from this spot, just
on a Zoom.
But
it's like, now we're back.
Yeah. It feels comfortable. Feels like
we're ready to
we're ready to have a good
convo. Wow. But actually, no, I am really excited for this conversation because we've talked about it for a while, about something we wanted to kind of bring up and share our experiences, and just I think it's important to talk about. But we wanted to talk about porn and masturbation this week and what that means as an adult now that you're, at least us, like fucking nearing 30, and how that's affected a lot of people our age, and the technology of it, I think our generation and even maybe the generation above us, like this millennial time, is where it's really affected the most, just based on accessibility and on top of like body issue thing. Like there's just so much that encompasses it.
Yeah.
And so to sit down and have a conversation about it is, with us, it's gonna be, I'm sure, such a delight.
I think it's relevant, like you said. I also feel like being in the dating scene, it's like more prominent to me than when I was in a relationship. Like I don't think I thought about it or like felt the effects of it as much as I do now than when I was dating someone. So I feel like that makes it more on my mind. And we also had a really good conversation with a friend last night that like I wanted him to come on the podcast, but I also fully understand why he didn't want to talk about it. But I feel like that makes it all the more reason why we should, because it's like I know for a fact that he is not the only one that like is feeling that way or has those like
it just has an effect. And it was interesting to get a male perspective and also see, like, I knew to an extent, not that situation, but I knew that it's an issue. Like, it's not a surprise, so to speak. But to have, like, a very, like, vulnerable conversation with, like, I don't know, it was just really interesting. And then to be like, wow, this is actually, like, an issue. Like a...
Yeah.
And it
made it more real. It made it less of like, oh, this is just a thing you and I have been talking about, and more of like, this extends far beyond just us.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, when did you first learn about porn?
So, well, before I answer that, I wanted to say that's interesting that you said that about the relationship, because I think it's different for me.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I think, so my first introduction to porn is my cousin and I lived together, like, obviously, well, not obviously, but we grew up together and lived in the same household, and we were very similar ages. Like, she's only a year and a half younger than me. And being fucking kids and being annoying, my parents had just got us this, like, desktop, like, PC humongous monitor, humongous meaning like old school, for us to like play games on. And my sisters were really young at the time, so it was really just for me and my cousin. And I can't remember, I want to say we were like 11, which is like a pretty typical age to start thinking about sex. And I remember us typing in sex into the search box and like all of these things like popping up back in the day where it's like bing 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 bing, and we got so scared. We were like, fuck, like mom is gonna be so mad. It's on, like, we didn't understand or comprehend it, but I think like in the back of my mind is when I was like, oh, this is what this is. That was like the very first, and other than that, like, never really thought about it again, probably up until like, I don't know, probably the end of middle school, maybe high school, just as something to talk about. But for me, it like scared me really, because I didn't even know, like, how do you just like search it? Do you just like, what do you do? You know what I mean? And it felt a very like guy thing to do. So I was like, okay. Same with masturbation. I don't think I've like, and I think we've talked about this before, but I don't think I masturbated until college. Maybe. And then like really after college is when I think it was like, oh, okay, this is like something I like. So it wasn't until like serious relationships were becoming like a part of it, and I got to like know a guy on a really close level and see how much how different it is for them to one masturbate and then one be on porn, that I started to be like, oh, like, is this something like I can be a part of? Like, is it something that I like? That's when I started to like really think about that. And that probably wasn't until like, college, which I don't know. Do you have a similar experience?
No.
No.
But you did like unlock some memories for me when you talked about like you and your cousin looking that up, because I remember, this is even younger and this isn't porn related, but I remember playing like Barbies or Bratz or whatever with my cousin and making them like kiss and stuff and like be without their clothes on and thinking like, what is this? Like, this is like a weird feeling inside of me. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I feel like that was just more of like a sexual like awakening in a way when you're like that young and you're like, what is this feeling? But, and then I also remember when I had gotten like a Facebook or something, like I didn't have a phone yet, but I had like an iPod Touch or something. And guys in middle school, like I when you're in elementary school, I feel like, one, you're not really thinking about it, but also like I was just like this chubby, awkward girl. Like I wasn't talking to boys. And then in middle school, and I was getting attention, but then it was like the older guys being like, can you like send me a picture or something? And me, one, not really having the ability to do that, so I would look up like pictures of that to like send to them, thinking that they would think it was me.
Yes.
Which is
same.
like, I just not the, like I didn't have an understanding, I don't think anyone really did, of like the internet and what it is that you're doing. And like when you send that, it's not just like just to them, like they can send it to anyone.
Yeah.
And things like that. But when about like porn specifically, I feel like when I learned about it through church, and it was like in conjunction with masturbation, and those both being bad things.
Yes, very true.
And like if you're gonna masturbate, like it was just like masturbation equals you watching porn, and that equals bad.
It was just like all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar experience as well. That's interesting that you mentioned the pictures, because I feel like, not that I want to like touch on it too much with but I feel like I was introduced to sex at a very young age. So I correlate like any pictures that I sent, because I did. Wouldn't say I did a lot. I think it scared me. But like that was when Snapchat came and like it was just a lot of like, but I more so associated, like when I think back on that, I associate that behavior with being introduced to sex so young. I don't really correlate it to like porn and masturbation. And now that you said that, I bet it's because of the religion factor, because I was like, oh, it's bad. Yeah. But like, oh, having this like intimate relationship with a person my age, like it wasn't, like all of these, like I was introduced to sex at a young age, typically with like someone that was like either in my grade or in my school or something like that. But the porn aspect of it, and then on top of it, like my own body exploration of masturbation, did not start until college. And during that time in high school when I was exploring that, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like just those fucking thoughts. I didn't even think about it because I was like, oh no, this is freaky.
I feel like for me, it was like my low self-worth, my low self-esteem of being like, I just wanted a guy.
Attention.
I just wanted like, attention. And like in my mind, I was like princesses and like love and all this stuff. And it was like, oh, is this like what it actually is? Like that's how I get it, is by like sending pictures. Yeah. Like that's how this, like I just was like, I hated it. I hated it. But I was like, this is like what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, masturbation for me didn't come until after my first relationship, which was after college. So I feel like it's been a like newer thing for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of why we wanted to talk about it too is like, because of, at least for me, them being linked together, porn and masturbation, it's like always feeling like dirty or bad, when it's like, I don't necessarily think that's the case. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've like researched around porn isn't coherently tied to masturbation. It's like that viewing, that objectification, that rewiring of the brain, all of that stuff is different than you like knowing what brings you pleasure and satisfying yourself.
No, that's such a good point, is like to break them apart, like to stop linking them together because they're not the same. Like there's literally like on both ends, like very hard scientific reasons why one is good and one is bad, and you know, can lead to addiction and have like, you know, long-term effects, negative effects on you. But as far as like masturbation, I think, at least for us being like women, is a very important conversation to have because of the like positives that it has. And I don't think it's talked about enough, because even I just want to say that as I was just like doing, I don't want to say research, but just a little bit of like, you know, what does this mean before we talk about this podcast? I forget what I typed in, but I want to say like, it was very like gender neutral. I don't even think I included he, she, but I was like, is masturbation good? I think is the one thing that I typed into the search bar. And article after article after article, I don't think I had to like scroll quite a few until I saw just like women or female or girls or whatever. Everything was like, why guys do it, what guys should do, how do guys da-da-da. And I was like, wait, this is the fucking problem, is it's not, this part of it isn't talked about unless you actually type in like, is masturbation good for women? Like, unless you input that into the search bar, that won't come up. And I just found that fascinating.
Yeah. No, that is. It is very much, I feel like sex is usually a male-dominated topic.
Yeah.
Because sex sells. I mean, anything you see on Pornhub is like, it's what would bring a man pleasure.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It's crazy to me, because when I think guy in masturbation, I think porn. When I think women in masturbation, I think imagination and like just
this like exploration and like confidence and
a moment, like a little date to yourself with just you and you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just like what so it was just annoying to me. Like, of course, like guy and sex and all of that is linked together, but for like masturbate, I don't know, it was just like annoying to me. I was like, ugh, God, fuck you guys, because this is like, women do it too.
Well, it's interesting because I really didn't even like allow myself to think about or to like touch myself in any way or to like masturbate until my first boyfriend. I don't know how much I want to talk about him, but like,
yeah,
he wanted me to like do certain things or like be a certain way, and I honestly, it wasn't until probably like last year that the light bulb clicked in my head of like, he was probably watching porn, because those things that he was asking me to do were like, I was like, how do you know this stuff, or like, why would you think of that? And it's like, the more I've like grown up and experienced other people and like, I don't know, like watched porn myself, whatever, like I'm just like, that's why you wanted that. That makes more sense to me. And the more like, he would always be like, you should like touch yourself and like see what you want. And that it wasn't until we were broken up that I did that, and I felt like more liberated by myself. But it felt weird coming from him and like the things that he was asking. Like, it felt like there was a different motive than me just knowing what I liked.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I think for me, having like being introduced to sex so young, and then, God, not so young, but it was, you know what I mean? Freshman year of college was like crazy. And I think that's when I started to see like what guys were obviously very clear on what they liked and what they didn't like. And so you would, you know, same thing to try to get that attention. You would just like learn whatever techniques or different ways of how you can have sex. And it wasn't until like I started watching porn when I was like, oh, this is where they got it. And then realizing like, as I get older, like I don't actually like that. So there's like all of a sudden now this like disconnect between what I used to do versus what I do now, and then somewhere in the middle of like, okay, what is it that I actually like? And I think the porn, and that at the end of the day, it's that porn piece that gets involved that fucks everything up, because there's nothing wrong with exploration. There's nothing wrong with trying new things, even if it is a technique that you see in porn. But the problem is like, now there's no relationship with the other person or with yourself. Like, and then you have to like build it up again and figure it out. And then as well as like, I find myself doing this too, is like, sometimes I'll be like in the moment and be like, I'm just done. Like I can't, I feel weird. And now I'm done. Like it's just something happens. And I think it's because of a multitude of things, but it's just like, that's not talked about either. I don't know. There's just, I don't know, you know?
I was following until you kept saying, I don't know.
I know.
Then I didn't know.
And then I got lost. Okay.
But I think, okay, so separating masturbation from porn, just like you and I this morning have been doing some research on it and like, why is porn not a good thing? Like, why is it such a harmful thing in relationships and like society, especially in dating? Like this objectification of women is very real. And like even the conversation we had last night with our friend of like, even subconsciously him like just thinking of women as this thing that's there to like satisfy and not necessarily as like a human being with feelings and emotions and like layers, you know? But I found, so fightthenewdrug.org is a website that was created, like I feel like I heard about this maybe in high school even. It's been around for a minute. I feel like there's been studies for over the last 10 years on the impacts of porn and how it's negative, but I feel like I've never really felt the need to look into it as much as I have now. But anyway, they talk about learning to ride a bike and how you have like muscle memory and all this, but more about the deeper levels of like what's actually going on in your brain with this like neuroplasticity, and how like when you first learn to ride a bike, there's all these like, you feel uneasy, you feel unbalanced, you're like, what am I doing? It's awkward. But when your brain is literally rewiring itself, it's like these signals that it's sending come faster, it's more efficient. So then the next, like the more you do it, it's easier. You're not feeling all those feelings. It's just like, all right, I'm hopping on my bike, I'm going.
Yep.
But the same thing is happening when you're watching porn. It's just like that negative side of it of like, you're getting this high. Your brain is like, what is this? This is like exploration and blah, blah, blah. But then it's like you see that again and then it doesn't have as much of an impact on you. So then you have to find something else or something more extreme, or like
the tolerance.
Your
tolerance buildup gets so much stronger. And you think of too, like you're on even like an obvious level is like the amount of pleasure, that dopamine hit that you get when you climax is so strong and instant that it is literally like a drug. And so when it happens like in a second of you seeing this one thing, when you go to do it again, it's like that one thing you need the next thing. So you can see how quickly it can build up and how what was the word? Hold on, I'm gonna try to find it because they used it. It was like perfect for this. Sorry, we can cut all this out.
Yeah.
The word that I'm looking for is how the porn changes that you're seeing. So it becomes, I forget the word that they use, but basically it becomes like soft porn into like harder and harder and harder things that you're seeing, and it's like the quicker, and then you're scrolling. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, but it actually ties in really good with the next thing in this article, which was talking about this study done by this guy Nicholas Tinbergen, whatever.
Great.
But he founded the phrase supernormal stimulus, which sounds like a good thing, but it's actually just like, because you would think about, okay, so why would porn have this but not necessarily sex, like having sex with someone? Why does that not, like, I mean, sure, there maybe you want to spice it up in the bedroom or whatever, but it's not the same as like porn and needing something more extreme.
Yeah.
This supernormal refers to exaggerated version or amount of a normal thing.
Yeah.
Which like with porn is where you're getting that. And so his experiment was with butterflies, and he created these like cardboard butterflies that were just like, they looked and moved like a normal butterfly, and he put male butterflies in with these cardboard butterflies that looked like regular female butterflies, and they tried to mate with them. Just like like it seemed like a normal thing, but it was like a fake butterfly.
Yeah.
Then he did it again with butterflies that had like more extreme colors, like nothing that you would really see normally. It was just like these really vibrant butterflies. And he put the males in with these females, and they tried to mate with them again. But then he introduced the regular butterflies in with these cutout, fake, bright, vibrant, super normal butterflies. And the males didn't give the females the actual real butterflies the time of day. They just tried to keep mating with these fake butterflies.
This is a beautiful metaphor and so sad. I'm so upset.
Which is like, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
And it just validates a lot of the things that I think I've been just feeling in dating in general, and like what we kind of talked about with our friend last night of like this constant, like there's always something better, something more beautiful, something, another option out there, and so you're never going to like settle, which I think like this is kind of snowballing, but that's where porn comes into play. It's like, one, we already have social media, which gives you this unlimited amount of like options that seem obtainable. And then you have dating apps where you can swipe through everyone in the whole valley, in the whole city. And it's like all of these more and more options. And then you introduce porn, which is just literally not a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah. I think too, what plays in my mind is when I think of all of this, all I'm thinking about is control. And that's the power of porn, is that you are now in control. When you have sex with another person, that is two beings coming together and you're trying to figure it out. We've talked about this so many times of like, when you're first having sex with someone, it's not going to be the greatest sex you've ever had in your life. Like, you're going to have to give it a second. It's not going to determine you're good, they're bad, you're bad. It doesn't mean anything because you're trying to figure it out. When you watch porn, even now, when you think about like the way that we were at Target, wow, side tangent, but we were at Target yesterday looking at the new iPhone, and we were looking at how, what did he say? Like when you swipe one way or something,
like the resolution or the speed that the apps load or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and like, so when you start to like scroll through, for an example, if you scroll through your photos on your phone, instead of them being blurry, you can clearly see them even if you're scrolling really fast. And you put that into like an Instagram or TikTok or porn that you're seeing on your phone or on your computer. Like, that's just automatic control. You get to dictate what you're watching, the speed of what you're watching, where you can literally go, no, don't like her, don't like him, this is too this is too that. Like, you get to manipulate and choose and pick in an instant. It's like that disconnect is now done. Of course you're not going to find that same gratifying high because another person is introduced. I think it has played a huge part in men manipulating women throughout history, and now this being introduced too is that power of control, that idea of control. Not even idea, but like literally that's what it is. And another way to like just diminish the beauty and the power of being a female and like being a woman and what that means and our identity, and even hearing from a guy's perspective of like, women are human. Like, I literally have a body. I'm not just this like hole, literal hole, tool plaything that's just like can do all these maneuvers and look like that on a daily basis 24/7. That's not unrealistic, and those people don't do that either.
Well, I think what was interesting is he brought up OnlyFans, and that I feel like has been this like blurred line for a lot of people of like it not being porn, because it's like you're like building a relationship with someone. And I think this gets into like an area of the internet that is like really scary to me, of like AI and like fake, like literally fake. It's not real, like, but they don't consider it porn because it's like, no, we're like talking, like there's more than just like me watching them. And it's also hard because it's like, I want to be supportive of the women that choose to like do that for money or be like a stripper or whatever, but it also like, it doesn't negate the fact that it is just making it worse. Like, I don't necessarily think that you're a bad person for doing that, and go get your money and all this stuff, because it's like, it's almost like the war on drugs or whatever. It's like people are gonna do drugs, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good thing, you know?
Yeah, but my perspective on that is it's hard, but my mind is like, we have to go deeper than that. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. These women, you know, you got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. And if you, I think the only reason why maybe I haven't even gone down that path is because of my own personal insecurities. But these women people are smart. They're trying to manipulate the system, and they're trying to, get their bag and get their money. Of course, it's, what's the word, continuing the issue and the problem. But at the same time, it's the only reason why it's a problem is because these, I don't want to generalize, but these men aren't getting the help that they need, and it's being reintroduced. If the women are now, it's just perpetual, where you feel like you grow up as a young woman and you learn about how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act, and then you get into middle school and high school where sex and figuring yourself out and puberty, and you're having all of these thoughts, and you start to get that attention. It could have easily snowballed for us as well to, use that and manipulate that and be like, oh, this is how not that every woman is like this. This is a very broad generalization, but I just think if that's how you grow up, feel good and get your money and manipulate and cheat the system, then that's good for you. It's we have to go deeper than that. And for one, I feel like we said, it's not talked about enough. And two, I'm pretty sure, I should Google this right now, but I'm pretty sure even though porn is an addiction, it's not necessarily as on a federal level looked at as an addiction, which is wild to me too. Anyway, that was a little bit of a...
I think it might be, because when I was looking up, porn's impact on the brain, a lot of, government research was coming up.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, I don't know that it's necessarily considered the same as, being a heroin addict. But I feel like the impacts on your brain are very similar.
Yeah. I just feel with OnlyFans, it is, such a blurred line, because it's how can we provide the support for, for women to do whatever it is that they got to do, but also look at this on a deeper level and be this is becoming an issue and a problem, and now where is this headed now? Because I feel like it's only getting worse.
Oh, for sure. Well, I wanted to ask you had kind of mentioned this, I think. I don't know if this was what you were saying, but in college you had said when your partners were watching porn, if you wanted to be in on that.
No.
Okay.
So I in high school, when I started to have sex for the first time, or even do anything, when you just start to be with someone like that, I really just found, I never watched porn. I was never interested in it. Like I said, I think it was the religion piece, and so I never went out of my way to look at it. And I remember in college someone asking if I masturbated or if I watched porn, and I saying no, and it was I even kind of got a little bit of attention for it in that moment of oh my gosh, really? And I'm no, really, but you know what I mean? It was this whole, oh god, no, so cringe.
Fully know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm oh my god, no, I don't. Honest. What I meant by that is I started dating a person pretty seriously, and it was on their phone. And so I knew, and it was a conversation, it was a pretty open, it wasn't an issue for me, but it was the first time that I was this isn't just a fake movie thing, guys masturbate, it's healthy for them, and most of the time they're watching some sort of porn. It wasn't anything crazy, it was just on there, and it was something that we had talked about, and I think that was the first time that it was introduced to me of a normal thing. And I never it wasn't a shame thing, it wasn't anything like that. I think I was just I thought this was just not fake, but it was just when I
realized that how close it
was to exactly. And that's when seeing that is when I was oh, can I do that? Not with him, but can I watch porn? Would I even like this? Would I even because everybody's now talking about how great masturbation is, and now we're in college and everybody's asking about it. I'm wait, should I be doing that? And so I think that's what I meant by that.
Would you watch porn with a partner?
In the past, yeah. I don't know. I feel I like trying different things with my partner and spicing things up. Porn is just a very fine line for me.
Yeah. I feel if you would have asked me this 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said yes,
Yes.
but I don't think I would have really like thought about it enough to be like, but why would we be doing that? And like, no judgment to anyone. My mind goes to like, if we're needing to watch porn in order to like get to a place where we want to be intimate with each other, it feels like there's an underlying issue there that should be talked about.
Yeah.
That like having experienced an intimate relationship where I felt like I didn't think about anyone else or anything else with this person. It was just like I was so attracted and wanted to be with them.
Yeah.
Like, I know that does exist. So I would be wanting that more than like we have to watch these other people. You know?
I just feel like, I don't know, sex is so complex. And when you're with someone, like there's a lot of ways to be intimate and to like stimulate yourself and still enjoy your partner. That's why it's like I don't necessarily want to deem it like a bad thing or rule it out as something that I would do. It just like, yeah, I think it just depends on the person, because I don't think
I feel like it opens the door in my mind to them being like watching it on their own, and then that snowballing into like deeper, an addictive thing where it's like the only way they can get off is if there's porn involved.
My thing is, the thing that popped into my mind is like when I went to Amsterdam, I did the like sex show with my partner, and it was so much fun. Like it was fun. It was like very adult. It was very sexy. It was like intimate, and then you like go home and you're like you feel good.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the only thing is like, well, is that the same? And that's literally like live. So I mean, that's like, it's not like I'm flying to Amsterdam every 5 seconds, but I think of that of like, there's just different ways to be intimate. So it would be interesting. For me personally, I agree with you. I think it would, you're walking a very, very like fine line.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And then there's the trust, and then at least for me, I think about my own insecurity. So like in the moment, the first time it may be fun, but if this is like a continual pattern, and then I start like I notice everything. So if we're like only watching porn that has like a certain type of like I will just make it a thing, and it would be unhealthy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we talked. I'm going to stop saying we talked about it last night. Shut up. Okay, anyway.
Shut up.
In our conversations about, like, when we've watched porn, what I had mentioned is, like, I feel like I never really watched porn until, like, within the last year.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because, like, I felt like when I was being intimate with someone else, it was, like, too painful for me. Like, I was still, like, I hadn't really processed things. And so porn was this empty way for me to, like, experience pleasure without having to, like, face the
realness of
the realness, it. But it didn't make me feel good. And honestly, I couldn't really watch it. It was, like, I would, like, see the image or something, which was enough to, like, get me to a place where I can, like, take my brain to go somewhere. But when I would actually watch a few minutes, literally I was like, no, I don't want this.
It becomes, honestly, that's me probably every time. If I do, it's like just because I'm having like my brain is going, I need to like separate myself, and then it's literally like a few seconds or minutes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm where I need to be.
Yeah. And
also like, I talked about this a little bit about just like the effects of, porn, and we've talked about it before and talked about it last night, is like it makes you feel so good for like 0.2 seconds. And then most of the time, most people even men feel like right after that dirty feeling of like, why did I do this? And then that shame piece of it, and like that is like detrimental to your brain, and then it like you come back up, or you're like feeling it and you want that stimulation even though you know it's bad for you, but maybe if I just do it this, you start to play this like devil's advocate like conversation with yourself, only to go through it all over and all over, and that's just like this horrible cycle of addiction, and it's like scary. So in the moment I'm like, oh no thank you, I'm done. Yeah
Well, that's been my like in dating. When it gets to the intimacy place, I can tell now pretty easily who is, like, probably watching more porn than they should.
Yeah.
And I don't know if should is the right word, but, like, things that they try and do where it's like very performative, or it feels like
Who are we doing this for? Is someone watching us? Why are you doing that, sir? Like, come on now. Like, what the fuck?
Like the most extreme, like hawking a loogie and like just like I'm like, what? What are you doing?
I can't. I know. Well, I once saw I saw something that was like, if you're gonna like fuck anybody, you should fuck someone that just got out of like a pretty serious relationship, because they know how to please like a woman. It's not this like these guys that I feel like are just doing one night stands, are just there to have this like this act instead of like, oh God.
That's the thing. That's like, I feel like sex, I enjoy sex. Sex is great. And I like feeling like secure in my body and feeling like I'm sharing something with a human. But I feel like that's where this one night stand conversation has kind of led us, of like, you don't feel necessarily good after.
Yeah.
You kind of are like, there's like a piece that's missing, I think.
Yeah.
For myself, of like that extra layer of like knowing someone and feeling connected to them, and you guys sharing that together, versus like hit it and quit it or whatever, you know, like.
I do think I'm at a point, not being in a relationship for a long time and like being out in this like crazy dating scene, it gets me a little like nervous, because I don't like who I was when I just like opened the door for a lot of people that I shouldn't have opened the door to or for or whatever. And so I'm at a point where I've like, I'm pretty good with my boundary now, but I'm almost like too good. And I get nervous like opening myself up, and like on the first date, or like even like talking to someone, even thinking about being intimate, I'm like, I really got to know you. Like, I don't know. And then I don't know if it's just this area or if this is just people now, but because of this, like, oh, I can do better, it's like, it scares me, because I know that if we were to be intimate, but like I said, the first time isn't going to be the best, like, do I need to, in order to like secure this person because I want someone, do I need to be
acrobatics.
like, do I need to do like 7 backflips and wear the most like craziest things in order to have you come back? Or is like me being like real enough, you know what I mean? And then I get nervous because like, and it goes back to our conversation that we had a few weeks ago about like having sex on the first date, is why I leaned more to having sex on the first date, just to rip off the Band-Aid, because I'm like, then if they don't come back, it's like I don't feel bad, it was just a one night stand, there weren't emotions there. But I feel like now I'm like, fuck, I don't want to fuck on the first date, I want to get to know you, but then I'm getting to know you, and now I want to ghost you because the next thing that's going to happen is sex, and it's not going to be good enough to keep you, and then there are my insecurities, like the hole I've dug myself in like a span of 30 seconds is wild, but that's my like conversation that I have with myself a lot when it comes to like being intimate with a person, because it's just like scary, and I feel like guys they're always like looking for my experience this past like year, I'd say, is there's always something better, or
even just like, I don't need to put in work for this. Like, I've had experiences where I'm like, what? Like, you think we're just about to have sex right now?
Yeah.
Like, that this is just a given? Are you insane?
It's just, like, what happens. Yeah. And now it's, like, it feels like high school all over again, but on, a higher level, like, higher tier of, like, oh, I feel, like, obligated. Things that I'm, like, what? This is not how I feel. Stop.
No, I know.
And now I'm placed in this position again.
Well, I think, like, there is a way, I don't want to say to fix this, but it's not like a hopeless case. I think with any type of, like, addiction, you can break free from it. And, like, I was reading on castlecraig.co.uk, which you can look at other websites, because when you look up like how long does it take to rewire your brain from addiction, it's like pretty crazy how quickly you can undo
Yeah.
things. And it's almost like your lungs when you, like, smokers who quit smoking and then the next year their lungs look great.
Yeah.
It's like your body is this incredible organism that can heal itself, that can rewire itself, that can fix things. Like, sorry, I'm going to go on a quick tangent, but, like, I watched this documentary about, like, just your brain's ability to, like, tell, like, people who go into these, like, meditative trances and, like, can, like, fix, like, internal problems with themselves. Like, if someone was, like, every night they would, like, think about their brain fixing this issue that they had with their spine. What? And just, like, the crazy power that your thinking can have, that your body can have, and, like, how they basically healed themselves through their brain.
Oh my God.
Like, thinking about, like, fixing whatever issue was happening.
Have you ever watched the movie Limitless? The one with the pill that, like, opens, like, you're only using, like, 20% of your brain, but it, like, opens the rest of your brain.
That sounds so familiar.
You guys should watch it. It has Bradley Cooper in it, I think, and it's so good. And it's, like, talking about that, too, which is crazy. It left me thinking for a long time. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, your brain is so powerful. So just as, like, powerful as the power that porn can have on it and the addictive, like, tendencies and how your brain's rewiring itself, you can undo that. And it said on this website that it can take, like, as quick as a month to, like, a few months. It really just depends on, like, your dedication, how long it's been. And I think that's why we wanted to talk about this too, because it's like when you're in high school or even college, like, yeah, people are watching porn, but it hasn't been a decade of them doing that. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I didn't feel the impacts of them, of partners or people I was dating watching porn for that long as I do now.
Right.
Where I'm like, wow, this is bad.
Yeah.
This
like,
is
it's
a
an
problem.
aspect of your life now.
Yeah.
Because it's happened. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's, yeah, when you had said that and I started looking too of, like, just the process of rewiring your brain from any kind of addiction, let alone, like, pornography, I was very surprised to see that. And then, you know, just hearing about what you're saying, like, it's almost like, oh yeah, duh, but you don't give it enough time to think or even try. And I think that, you know, the process this is 1 to 7 months of nothing. Like, you have to work in like relapses and things like that. Like, it is a journey for sure, but I think to completely rule it out of, like, oh, there's no hope is just a little silly. And I think it's just, like, you know, addressing that it is a concern and it's an issue and it's an addiction, and then, like, okay, how can we help ourselves? Because it's not like one person out of a million are dealing with this thing or processing it or whatever. Like, it's a lot more common than we think, and I think it's very common in men, and I don't think it's brought up enough for their safety and their health as well. As we were talking about last night, of just, like, this man and machismo attitude, which I could talk about forever, but this is just detrimental. And, like, now, because, like you said, because it's been so long and the start of it, like, we're really, science has been, you know, looking at these things for more and more, but of course, as time goes on, more things are going to come up. There's going to be more research, and it's just, like, every time, how shitty it is, we're going to start seeing, like, really, really negative effects, and it's only going to get worse.
You reminded me, there's so many, it's crazy because I have all these memories locked away, and then someone says something and I'm like, wow. Yeah. But when I met this woman who, when I was living in North Carolina, I was basically living on a military base, so I met a lot of, like, military spouses, and I think the military also, when you're away from your partner, porn is, like, a huge thing because that's just what they do. But I'm gonna butcher what it was because I forgot until you just mentioned it, but there was, like, this app that she shared with her partner that, like, would notify her if he was, like, trying to watch porn, because he was trying to break his, like, addiction, but when he was deployed, it was really hard. Like, I want to have empathy for that. I don't know. I've never been deployed. Yeah. But, like, there was this app that would, like, notify her, so then she could be like, hey, like, are you okay? Do you want to talk? Blah, 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 whatever. I don't know how it all worked. I don't really remember the details, but I thought that was a cool concept in a way, so you're not feeling like you're the only one that like has to battle your phone.
Yeah.
Because it's so easily accessible for you, for me, for literally anyone to find, that like at least you can have some accountability in some way, or it will like lock you out of I don't really know how it worked, but I just thought that was cool, and also like reminded me of this other aspect, which is being away from your partner, because I dated long distance in both my relationships, and I do feel like that impacted intimacy in a lot of ways.
There's just so many aspects where like, not that porn is ever like a necessity, but where it's like an aspect of a life and intimacy where you want, it could be important to you and your health and your partner, that it's like a slippery slope like deployment. It's crazy. Yeah, I would be interested to see if that what happened with that.
I'd be interested to see any stats on like just percentage of like how many people in the military watch porn on a regular basis versus like the general population, and like if it's a significantly higher problem in that field of work than other fields. Like I would guess so, but I also don't know. Like I feel like it's so not talked about that I really feel like I have no idea.
Yeah, same. I mean, I also think too, I would like to like learn a little bit more about the male perspective, but at least for my perspective is I feel very disconnected from porn and almost a little scary, and I don't think that'll change really, and I'm kind of okay with that. I do feel like a little, because porn and masturbation have always been like circled up with each other, that my disconnect and like not being interested in porn has led me to be like not interested in masturbation. And I feel like, you know, that's, I don't know what the right word is. Not sad. It's not sad, but it's just interesting to see if that plays a part of like my own self-worth and my self-confidence, because a lot of the things that I was seeing is what's so beautiful for women is an easy and beautiful opportunity to learn about yourself is exploring how to make yourself feel good. And it's just that's interesting. And so when it comes to adding like a porn piece, or even like another way to be self like confident in that aspect, is broaden your horizons a little bit. I know that there are tools out there. I just try to look it up, but I can't. But I remember seeing a conversation with Emma Watson. She did like a talk somewhere, and she had given out a website that was like, there are out there of like female-led porn sites, and even one that like is pretty not close to home for us, but one that I see or hear on a regular basis is Vibes Only by Girls Gotta Eat. Their podcast is awesome, but they have a company called Vibes Only, and it's an app as well, and you can like listen or read to like very sexual stories, and like you can take it even deeper, and you can like connect your vibrator to it. And I think that's interesting too, because it's like a little bit of a different aspect and a little bit of a way for like females to enjoy that aspect and kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So I think that's worth noting too, that there are other like avenues out there that aren't as scary, or I don't know, I don't want to say like scary or creepy, but those are just the words that come to my mind. So
I mean, yeah, I think that's the majority of the industry. I think it's like, I don't think it's like an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's aspects of it that can be, I don't know if helpful is the right word, but that can like empower you or help you to explore. I feel like it's more of like understanding how addictive it can be, and really understanding the importance of like actual chemistry and interaction with a human being, and viewing them as a human being versus this like objectifying of sex and of another person, and just like losing that humanity piece, because that's what has been so alarming to me and so difficult, is like I don't want to be hopeless in dating. I don't want to feel like this is it, and that like I'm just gonna have to deal with it. I refuse to believe that, because I know if there are people like you and I feeling this way, that there has to be other people out there. I think it's just not something that's talked about, and I feel like I see how easy it can be to become addicted to something like that, and how you can like lose yourself in it because it's that like instant gratification.
Yeah.
But I also know that having experienced a healthy intimacy before, that is worth it to me.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna add to it, 'cause I'm just gonna literally repeat the same exact thing that you just said. So yeah.
So on that note, have a lovely day. If you resonate at all, feel free to reach out if you want to chat, if you want any of the resources we talked about, or have any that you could share with us. Always open book.
Always.
Love you guys.
Love ya. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.